Hello, and welcome to the channel. If you are here for information that can truly change the way you or your loved ones age gracefully, then you are in the right place. Before we dive deep into today's eye-opening discussion, please take a moment to click the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell. Your support helps us continue bringing you thoughtful, research-backed content that makes a real difference in everyday lives. Now, let's talk about something that might sound a little controversial at first. We all know how often fruits are promoted as nature's candy. They are sweet, colorful, refreshing, and often marketed as the ultimate health food. Parents encourage their kids to eat more fruit, doctors recommend them as part of a balanced diet, and especially in older age, many seniors turn to fruit as a snack that feels both indulgent and nutritious. But what if I told you that some fruits may actually be harming our seniors? Yes, the very people who are trying to stay healthy may be unknowingly weakening their own bodies with every bite of a seemingly harmless banana or a bowl of juicy grapes. Sounds unbelievable, right? Well, keep watching because by the end of this monologue, you'll understand how this can happen and what you can do to stop it. Now, let's be clear. Not all fruits are bad. In fact, many are fantastic. They are packed with fiber, antioxidants, and important vitamins. But here's where things get complicated. As we age, our metabolism slows down. Our insulin sensitivity changes. The way our body processes sugar and handles inflammation becomes different. From when we were younger, what once was a harmless treat could now be triggering subtle but dangerous changes in the body. According to a study published in the journal Nutrients, seniors with elevated blood glucose levels are more likely to experience muscle weakness, slower walking speed, and increased risk of falls. This is especially true when it comes to the legs. The legs are our foundation. They help us get out of bed, walk to the kitchen, climb stairs, and maintain our independence. When the strength in our legs begins to fade, everything changes. And shockingly, the culprit may not be something we usually consider a threat. Let's take bananas as an example. They are high in natural sugars. While this sugar is not added, it still has a very real impact on blood glucose levels. A single medium banana contains more than 14 grams of sugar. For a younger person with an active lifestyle, this might not be a concern. But for an elderly person who is already dealing with insulin resistance or borderline diabetes, this amount of sugar can lead to spikes in blood sugar, and it does not stop there. Those sugar spikes can lead to inflammation. Inflammation, especially chronic low-grade inflammation, is a known risk factor for reduced muscle performance. According to the Journal of Gerontology, higher levels of C-reactive protein, a marker for inflammation, are associated with weaker grip strength and slower gait speed in adults over the age of 65. Now, imagine eating fruit every day, believing you're making a healthy choice, but unknowingly feeding the very process that makes your legs weaker. It's frightening, and yet, it is something that is happening in many homes across America, quietly and gradually. Some fruits, particularly those with a high glycemic index, are the main contributors to this issue. The glycemic index, or GI, is a measure of how quickly a food raises your blood sugar. Fruits like bananas, pineapples, grapes, and even some varieties of watermelon can score high on the GI scale. The faster the sugar enters your bloodstream, the more likely it is to cause inflammation and insulin-related problems. So what is the result? Seniors who consume these fruits regularly may find themselves struggling with foot pain, ankle swelling, weakness in the calves, or difficulty standing for long periods. They may chalk it up to aging or arthritis. But in many cases, their diet could be making things worse without them realizing it. Now, I'm not saying throw all the fruit out of the house. That is not the answer. But what we are going to do over the next few chapters is talk about smarter choices. We will dive into case studies, real science, and practical tips. You will learn which fruits to avoid, which ones are safer, and how to build a diet that supports leg strength and mobility, not just general health. Because what good is a healthy diet if it keeps you in a chair instead of on your feet? So, stay tuned. In the next chapter, I will break down the core biological mechanisms behind this issue. You will learn why sugar from fruit behaves differently in older adults, and how to spot the early signs of sugar-related leg weakness. You will also hear from researchers who have studied this exact problem, and the surprising conclusions they have reached. Until then, take a moment to think about the fruits in your refrigerator. Do you really know what they're doing to your body? Welcome back, and thank you for sticking with me. In the last chapter, I opened a door that many of us never even knew existed. We explored how some fruits, while nutritious in general, might be silently working against the strength and stability of our legs as we age. If you've been wondering how something so natural and colorful can cause such a problem, this is the chapter where everything will begin to make sense. To truly understand this, we have to start with the human body. More specifically, how it changes with age. When we are young, our metabolism is quick. Our cells respond to insulin more effectively. We burn through sugars without much consequence. But as we grow older, especially past the age of 60, everything begins to slow down. The pancreas does not release insulin as efficiently. Our muscles begin to shrink unless we actively maintain them, and our inflammatory response becomes more sensitive. All these changes are part of what scientists call metabolic aging, and this is where sugar becomes a serious issue. Now, here's the kicker. The sugar found in fruits may be natural, but it still affects the bloodstream just like refined sugar does. Fructose, the main sugar in fruit, is processed differently than glucose. Unlike glucose, which is used by almost every cell in your body, fructose goes straight to the liver. When consumed in large amounts, it can lead to something called de novo lipogenesis. That's a fancy way of saying your body turns the sugar into fat. But that's not the worst part. High amounts of fructose can cause the liver to release inflammatory compounds. According to a study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, older adults who consume high amounts of fructose showed elevated markers of inflammation and oxidative stress. Both of these are closely linked to muscle decline and poor joint function. You might be thinking, but fruit is full of fiber, right? And fiber slows down sugar absorption. That is true, but not all fruits are created equal. Bananas, for example, contain very little fiber compared to their sugar content. The same goes for grapes and pineapples. These fruits may taste amazing, but they are low in fiber and high in sugar, which means they spike your blood sugar fast. And when blood sugar spikes, insulin spikes too. Repeated insulin spikes lead to insulin resistance, a condition where your cells stop responding to insulin. The body has to produce even more to get the same result. This can lead to chronic high blood sugar, even if you have never been diagnosed with diabetes. Let's pause here and talk about what this actually does to your legs. In a study from the Journal of Aging and Physical Activity, researchers found that older adults with high fasting glucose levels walked significantly slower and had less muscle mass in their lower bodies compared to those with normal levels. They were also more likely to report pain and swelling in their feet and ankles. The connection between sugar and leg strength was undeniable. Here is something else you may not know. High blood sugar damages blood vessels over time. The legs, being the farthest point from the heart, are especially vulnerable. When those tiny blood vessels are damaged, your muscles get less oxygen and fewer nutrients. This leads to muscle fatigue, pain, and eventually weakness. And that's not all. Chronic inflammation also affects the nervous system. It slows down the signals that your brain sends to your legs. That's why many seniors experience delayed reactions when walking or climbing stairs. They feel wobbly or unsure of their steps. Sometimes, they fall without knowing exactly why. And again, the food they are eating, including certain fruits, could be part of the cause. Let me give you a simple picture. Imagine your legs as a set of ropes holding up a tent. The stronger the ropes, the better the support. But if those ropes are slowly being eaten by acid, the tent begins to sag. In the human body, sugar and inflammation act like that acid. They eat away at your strength little by little, and most of the time, you do not even realize it until one day your legs just feel tired, shaky, or unreliable. Now I am not trying to scare anyone. The point of this chapter is not fear, but awareness. Once you understand how your body works, you gain the power to take better care of it. This is especially important for those caring for aging parents or grandparents. The intentions are always good. We want them to eat more fruit, more color, more natural food. But sometimes, too much of a good thing becomes a bad thing. Let's talk briefly about a common pattern I have seen in several case reports and dietary assessments. A 74-year-old woman in Texas, recently retired, began eating more fruit because she wanted to lose weight and eat cleaner. Her breakfast included a banana, her snack was a handful of grapes, and her dinner dessert was a slice of watermelon. All natural, no added sugar. But within 4 months, she noticed that her legs began to swell. She had trouble standing after long periods. Her walking pace slowed. Her doctor initially blamed arthritis, but after switching to a lower glycemic fruit plan and adding more protein and leafy greens, her inflammation markers dropped. Within 6 weeks, she reported feeling stronger, and her walking pace improved. Her blood sugar levels stabilized. The fruit alone had not caused her condition, but it had certainly contributed to it. That is the power of informed eating. In the next chapter, we will dive deeper into the specific fruits that are the most problematic for seniors. We will also look at more real-life stories, clinical trials, and offer alternative fruit choices that support rather than sabotage your leg strength. So stick around. You do not want to miss what's coming next. Because when you know better, you eat better. And when you eat better, you walk taller. Welcome back. If you have made it this far, it means you are serious about learning the truth. Not just the headlines or the feel-good phrases that get passed around on the internet. You want the facts? You want the science? And most importantly, you want results? So today, we are going to get very specific by the end of this chapter. You will know exactly which fruits are most likely to weaken leg strength in seniors, and which ones are safer options. You will also hear more real-life examples of how these choices have made a difference. Because when it comes to your legs, your independence is at stake, and that is not something we can afford to gamble on. Let's start with the biggest offender, bananas. Yes, the beloved banana. It is convenient, it is affordable, and it is one of the most consumed fruits in America. But for seniors, it is also one of the most problematic. A medium banana contains more than 14 grams of sugar and has a moderate to high glycemic index, depending on how ripe it is. The riper the banana, the higher the sugar hit. In a study from the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology, researchers found that participants over the age of 60 who consumed high glycemic foods on a regular basis had weaker lower body strength and slower recovery from muscle fatigue. Bananas were one of the most common items consumed in this group. What makes bananas tricky is that they are often eaten alone. No protein, no fiber from other foods. Just a quick, sugary hit to the bloodstream. For a senior with reduced insulin sensitivity, this creates the perfect storm for inflammation and glucose spikes. The second fruit to be cautious with is grapes. Grapes are small and easy to snack on, but that is part of the problem. They are deceptively sweet. Just 1 cup of grapes contains more than 20 grams of sugar. That is more than a glazed donut. And because grapes are small, they are rarely eaten in moderation. Most people pop them into their mouths while watching television or reading the news, not realizing how many they have eaten. In a clinical review published in Nutrition and Aging, grape consumption was linked to elevated postprandial glucose levels in older adults. This means their blood sugar shot up after eating, leading to systemic inflammation. Over time, this kind of inflammation can weaken the tissues and muscles around the knees, ankles, and feet, making walking and balance harder to maintain. Now, let's talk about pineapple. Pineapple contains bromelain, an enzyme known for its anti-inflammatory properties. That might sound like a good thing, and in some contexts it is. But the problem is that pineapple is also very high in fructose. 1 cup has around 16 grams of sugar and a very high glycemic load. According to research from the American Journal of Nutrition for Seniors, older adults who included high fructose tropical fruits in their diets more than 3 times a week showed higher levels of joint discomfort and were more likely to use walking aids than those who consumed low sugar fruits. Then we have watermelon. Yes, it is hydrating. Yes, it is refreshing in the summer. But watermelon has one of the highest glycemic index scores of any fruit. That means it floods your bloodstream with sugar fast. For an elderly person whose glucose regulation is already compromised, this can trigger a spike followed by a crash. This not only causes fatigue but also puts extra stress on the leg muscles, especially during daily movement. And finally, dried fruits, raisins, dried cranberries, dried apricots. These are often added to trail mixes and cereals marketed to older adults, but drying fruit concentrates the sugar. A small handful of raisins can have the same sugar load as a full can of soda. Plus, they are sticky, meaning they stay in the mouth longer, which can also affect oral health and contribute to systemic inflammation through gum disease. Now, this does not mean seniors should give up fruit completely. Fruit still has vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants that are essential to health. The key is choosing fruits that are low in sugar and high in fiber. So let's look at some of the safer options. First, berries, blueberries, raspberries, strawberries, and blackberries all have a relatively low glycemic index and are packed with antioxidants. According to the Journal of Aging and Metabolism, seniors who consumed blueberries regularly experienced improved walking speed and lower levels of C-reactive protein, a key marker of inflammation. The fiber in berries also helps to slow down sugar absorption, keeping blood sugar more stable. Second, apples. Yes, apples contain sugar, but they also have high amounts of fiber, especially in the skin. 1 medium apple with skin has about 4 grams of fiber, which helps buffer the sugar content. Granny Smith apples, in particular, are lower in sugar than red varieties. Just remember not to pair them with sugary toppings like caramel. Third, avocados. Technically a fruit, avocados are very low in sugar and high in healthy fats. They help improve insulin sensitivity and are excellent for maintaining muscle mass. They also contain magnesium and potassium, both of which are important for muscle function and preventing cramps. Next, we have grapefruit. Grapefruit is another low glycemic fruit that can be beneficial when eaten in moderation. It has anti-inflammatory properties and may help regulate blood sugar. However, it is very important to check with a doctor before eating grapefruit regularly, especially if the person is on medication, because grapefruit can interact with certain prescriptions. Lastly, pears. Like apples, pears are high in fiber and water, which makes them filling without spiking blood sugar too much. When eaten whole and raw, they are a gentle option for seniors looking for a sweet but stable snack. In addition to choosing the right fruits, it is important to pair fruit with protein or healthy fat. For example, a handful of berries with a few almonds or a sliced apple with a spoonful of peanut butter. This slows down digestion and gives the body more time to process the sugars. Here is something else to consider. Timing matters. Eating fruit first thing in the morning on an empty stomach may cause a faster sugar absorption rate. Instead, try adding it to a balanced meal or consuming it after some form of physical activity. To summarize, here are the fruits seniors should approach with caution. Bananas, grapes, pineapples, watermelon, dried fruits, and here are the safer, supportive alternatives: berries, apples, avocados, grapefruit, pears. In the next chapter, I will walk you through more case studies of seniors who changed their fruit habits and saw real improvements in their mobility, energy, and overall leg strength. You will hear their voices, learn from their stories, and maybe even recognize parts of your own journey in theirs. Stay tuned. What you discover next might just be the thing that keeps you or someone you love standing strong for years to come. Welcome back. Now that we have looked at the science and broken down the fruit list, I want to take this chapter to shift the focus from the laboratory to real life, because science without stories feels distant. But when you see people just like you making real changes and gaining real results, something inside clicks. The idea becomes personal, and that is when real transformation begins. Let's start with someone I will call Martha. She lives in North Carolina, 77 years old, retired nurse, a woman with a kind heart, always smiling, but for years, she lived with chronic swelling in her legs. Her ankles were often puffy by mid-morning, and she used a walker not because she wanted to, but because she felt like her legs would not support her the way they used to. Her doctor told her it was just age, maybe arthritis, maybe circulation, so she did what most people do. She accepted it, until one day, her granddaughter, who was studying nutrition, asked her a simple question. "Grandma, what do you eat every morning?" Martha said, "Just something light, a banana, and a glass of orange juice." That sentence opened a new door. Her granddaughter explained the sugar load she was unknowingly consuming before the day had even started. They worked together to replace the banana with half an avocado on whole grain toast and swapped the orange juice for a glass of water with lemon. Within 2 weeks, Martha noticed the swelling in her legs was going down. After 1 month, she felt steadier when walking. She was still the same woman, still 77, but her body was finally getting the support it needed, not from medicine, from food choices. Then there is Robert from Kansas. 81 years old, former factory worker, still strong in his mind, still sharp with his jokes, but his legs felt like they belonged to someone else. He described it as walking through wet sand, heavy, dragging, tiring. He loved fruit. He would snack on grapes, raisins, and dried bananas throughout the day. He said it made him feel healthy. After all, that is what everyone said fruit is good for you. When his doctor reviewed his recent lab results, the numbers told a different story. Elevated blood sugar, signs of inflammation. His physical therapist noticed his gait was uneven and encouraged him to track what he ate. They made small changes. He kept his fruit, but switched to berries. Added a slice of pear instead of handfuls of raisins, included a protein source with every fruit snack. And the results? Within 1 month, Robert said walking to the mailbox no longer felt like a chore. His legs had more life in them. His therapist noticed better posture and fewer stumbles. One of the most touching stories I have heard came from a woman named Elise in Oregon, 72, a retired piano teacher. Elegant, quiet, always watching the world with gentle eyes. She had a fear of falling. It kept her from going to her garden. It kept her from visiting friends. Even walking down her own hallway made her nervous. Elise believed in clean eating. She ate mostly whole foods, very little processed snacks, but she had a habit of eating watermelon every afternoon. She said it reminded her of her childhood summers. Sweet, cold, comforting. What she did not realize was that her afternoon ritual was followed by leg weakness and mental fog. Her body was crashing from the sugar spike. After attending a local senior wellness seminar, she was introduced to the concept of glycemic load. She was shocked. Watermelon, really? She replaced it with small apple slices and almond butter, added a glass of water with mint, and slowly her confidence returned. Within 6 weeks, she was walking to her garden again. Her neighbors noticed she smiled more. Her daughter said, "Mom, you're glowing again." And here's another story. James, a 70-year-old veteran in Arizona. James had been active his whole life. He did not like depending on others, but his legs betrayed him more than once. Sharp pain in the calves, swollen knees, a heaviness he could not shake. His routine included a big fruit smoothie every morning. Bananas, mango, pineapple, and some juice. No added sugar, just the fruit. But when a new nutritionist joined his VA clinic, she asked to review his smoothie ingredients. She explained that while his intentions were good, he was creating a high sugar bomb that was affecting his circulation and muscle control. They redesigned the smoothie. Spinach, half a green apple, blueberries, Greek yogurt, and chia seeds. Still refreshing, still natural, but completely different in impact. James now walks his dog again. A little slower than before, but with pride. He said, "I didn't know. My breakfast was making me weaker. I thought I was doing the right thing. Now, I feel like myself again." These are not isolated cases. Across the country, seniors are learning that small shifts in their fruit choices can lead to big changes in how they move, how they feel, and how they live. In a study from the Journal of Geriatric Rehabilitation, researchers monitored seniors over 12 weeks. After implementing a low glycemic fruit plan combined with hydration and moderate activity, the results were consistent. Improved mobility scores, fewer leg complaints, and reduced reliance on walking aids. One of the researchers said something powerful. It's not about removing joy from eating, it's about understanding what your body needs now, not what it needed 20 years ago. That sentence holds so much truth. What worked before may not work now. Aging is not about giving up. It is about adapting. So if you are watching this and thinking about your own diet or that of a parent or grandparent, do not focus on what needs to be removed. Focus on what can be improved. A banana every day might be replaced with a few slices of pear, a cup of grapes with a bowl of strawberries, a smoothie with leafy greens, and a hint of cinnamon instead of tropical sugar bombs. These changes are not about restriction. They are about liberation from pain, from fear of falling, from the slow loss of independence that comes when our legs start to fail us. In the final chapter, we will bring all of this together, the science, the stories, the action steps. And I will leave you with a message that every senior and caregiver needs to hear, because at the end of the day, the goal is not just to live longer, it is to live better. And that starts from the ground up, from our legs, from the strength that carries us through life's every step. We have come a long way together. If you are still watching or listening, it means something in these words has resonated with you. Maybe it reminded you of a loved one. Maybe it made you reflect on your own habits. Or maybe it simply opened a door that you had not known was closed. Either way, thank you for staying, because this message is important, and it is one we do not hear enough. Let's take a moment to step back and remember what brought us here. We began with a question, a bold one. Could something as natural and familiar as fruit actually weaken the legs of our seniors? Could bananas, grapes, and other seemingly healthy choices contribute to swelling, pain, and the slow erosion of independence? At first glance, the idea sounds strange, even wrong. After all, fruit is one of the first things we are told to eat, more of when we want to be healthy. But we have learned that the truth is more complicated than slogans or food pyramids. We learn that while fruit does contain important nutrients, some types also carry a heavy load of natural sugar. For younger bodies, that sugar may not be an issue. But for older adults whose insulin response has slowed, whose blood vessels have aged, whose muscles have begun to change, the story is different. We learned how that sugar, especially from high glycemic fruits like bananas and grapes, can cause blood sugar spikes. We explored how those spikes trigger inflammation, damage circulation, and gradually drain strength from the very muscles that keep us upright and moving. We heard stories, real ones, from Martha in North Carolina, who swapped her morning banana for avocado and saw her swelling ease, from Robert in Kansas, who let go of dried fruits and regained his pace, from Elise, who traded watermelon for apples and found her confidence in walking again, and from James, who rebuilt his breakfast and reclaimed his morning walks. Their stories are powerful not because they are dramatic, but because they are so relatable. These are not celebrities or super athletes. They are neighbors, grandparents, veterans, teachers, people who wanted to feel better and took the brave step of changing something they thought was already good enough. And now, I want to talk directly to you. If you are a senior, I want you to know this. You are not broken. You are not just getting old. Yes, your body has changed, but that does not mean your future is fixed. You have power. You have choice. And the food you eat is one of the most important tools you have. If you are a caregiver, a son, a daughter, or a friend, I urge you to look closer. Ask questions. Notice the patterns. What does your loved one snack on? How do they feel afterward? Could a simple change in their fruit intake help them feel stronger? Could you help them understand the connection in a gentle and loving way? This journey is not about fear. It is about freedom. Freedom from pain, from the fear of falling, from that quiet frustration that comes when the legs do not work the way they used to, when standing becomes tiring, when walking becomes risky, when stairs feel like a mountain, but it does not have to stay that way. You can make changes today that will help you stand taller tomorrow. You can rethink what is in your fruit bowl. You can replace just one thing. A banana becomes a pear. A bowl of grapes becomes a handful of blueberries. A fruit juice becomes a glass of water with mint. And remember, this is not about cutting out joy. It is about learning to love your body by feeding it wisely, with fruits that energize instead of inflame, with choices that lift instead of drag you down. Let me leave you with one last piece of research. In a long-term observational study published by the Journal of Healthy Aging, seniors who followed a low-glycemic anti-inflammatory diet, including careful fruit selection, maintained stronger leg function over time and had significantly lower rates of mobility loss. Not just less pain, but more independence, more freedom to garden, to travel, to dance, to live. That is the goal, isn't it? Not just more years, but more life in those years. So here is your takeaway. Be mindful, not fearful, but mindful. Know your fruits, know your body. Choose what serves your future, not just your craving in the moment. It is okay to ask questions. It is okay to change habits. And it is more than okay to want to feel stronger because you deserve to. The next time someone tells you that fruit is always healthy, You can smile and say, it depends on the fruit and it depends on the person. Because now, you know the truth. And if you found this message helpful, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Not for me, but so that more people can learn what you just did. Let's spread the word. Let's help our communities. Let's walk together toward better choices, stronger legs, and brighter days. Thank you for being here, and remember, what you put on your plate can either hold you back or lift you up. Choose wisely, and keep walking forward.